After spending $20,000 on my stepdaughter's graduation, she looked me in the eye and said, "You're not my real mom." Hey, everyone. I need to tell you something that's been weighing on me for months now. This is probably going to be the hardest story I've ever shared, but I think it needs to be told. Maybe some of you have been through something similar. Maybe you'll think I'm the bad guy here. I don't know. But this is what happened to me, and I'm still trying to process it all. My name is Sarah, and I'm 45 years old. I own a small bakery here in Philadelphia. It's not some fancy corporate chain or anything like that, but it's mine. I built it from absolutely nothing, working crazy hours, missing holidays, skipping vacations, pouring every ounce of energy I had into making it succeed. And it did succeed. Not millionaire success, but comfortable enough to live a decent life, you know? This story is about my stepdaughter Emma, my ex-husband David, and how I learned the hardest way possible that sometimes love and generosity aren't enough when you're dealing with people who see you as nothing more than a wallet. Before we dive in, I just want to say that I'm not looking for sympathy here. I made my choices, and I have to live with them. But if my story can help even one person recognize the warning signs I ignored, then sharing this publicly will be worth it. About 8 years ago, my bakery was doing well enough that I decided it was time to expand. I wanted to add more seating, upgrade the kitchen, maybe add a small patio area where customers could enjoy their coffee and pastries outside. So I started looking for a contractor, and that's when David came into my life. He came recommended by a friend who'd used him for some home renovations. The day he walked into my bakery to give me a quote, I was immediately drawn to him. He was tall, had this warm smile, and there was something about the way he carried himself that made you feel comfortable instantly. We talked for almost 2 hours that first day, way longer than a simple consultation should have taken. During our conversations, he told me about his life. He was raising his daughter Emma completely on his own.
She was 10 years old at the time.
He explained that his ex-wife Rachel had lost custody because of alcohol problems and general instability. The way he told the story, he was this heroic single father who'd stepped up when the mother couldn't. He made it sound like he'd been through hell but was doing everything possible to give his daughter a stable, loving home. He'd say things like, "Emma and we've been through so much together. We just want some stability, you know? A real family environment where she can feel safe." And honestly, I ate it up. I thought, this is a good man. This is someone who puts his child first no matter what. We started dating about a month after he finished the bakery renovations. He'd bring Emma by sometimes, and she was shy but seemed sweet in her own way. She didn't talk much, but when she did, she was polite. I thought maybe I could be the positive female role model she needed, someone stable and caring. Within a year, David and I were talking about marriage. He had this way of making everything sound like destiny, like we were meant to find each other. He'd say, "Emma and I would love to have a real family again. She needs a mother figure, and I need a partner." Looking back, I can see how he framed everything to appeal to my nurturing side, but at the time, I genuinely believed we were building something beautiful together. We got married in a small ceremony. Nothing extravagant, just close friends and family. Emma was the flower girl, and she seemed genuinely happy that day. After the wedding, David and Emma moved into my house. My place was bigger in a better school district, and honestly, it just made sense. I thought we were starting our life together as a real family. The first year of marriage was actually pretty good. We had family dinners most nights. We do game nights on Fridays. On weekends, we take little trips to nearby towns, go hiking, visit museums. Emma was slowly warming up to me, and David seemed attentive and appreciative. He'd help around the house, tell me how much he valued what I did, and talk about our future together. But looking back now with clear eyes, I can see the red flags were there from the beginning. I just didn't want to acknowledge them because I was so invested in making this family work. The first real warning sign came about 5 years into our marriage. David came home one afternoon and casually announced that he was quitting his contracting job.
Just like that.
No discussion, no planning, just a done deal. "The management is toxic," he explained. "My boss treats me like garbage, and I just can't handle the disrespect anymore. I need to do something else." I felt sympathetic at first. I mean, Nobody should stay in a job where they're miserable and being treated poorly, right? Mental health matters. Work-life balance matters. I understood that. Okay, I said. So, what's your plan? Are you going to look for another contracting position, or are you thinking about doing something different? He waved his hand dismissively. I just need some time to figure out my next move. I can't jump into something right away. I need to decompress and really think about what I want to do with my life. That sounded reasonable enough, so I didn't push back. I told myself that's what good partners do. They support each other through transitions and rough patches. I figured he'd take a few weeks, maybe a month, and then start seriously looking for new opportunities. But weeks turned into months. 2 months became 4 months. 4 months became 6 months. And David hadn't sent out a single job application. I'd come home after 10 or 12-hour days at the bakery, exhausted and covered in flour, and David would be stretched out on the couch in the same sweatpants he'd been wearing for 3 days, watching reruns of old crime shows, surrounded by empty chip bags and soda cans. The dishes would be piled up in the sink. The trash would be overflowing. The groceries he'd promised to pick up that morning would still be on the list, unpurchased. The laundry would be sitting in the dryer, wrinkled because he hadn't bothered to fold it when it finished. I tried to bring it up gently, trying not to sound like I was nagging. Hey David, did you get a chance to look at any job postings today? He'd barely look up from the TV. Not yet. I'm working on putting together a portfolio for freelance work. It takes time to do it right. This freelance work. Oh boy, let me tell you about David's big dream. He wanted to start a home improvement consulting business. He talked about it constantly, to the point where it became his entire identity. When I get my business up and running, Sarah, you'll see. I'll make sure you don't have to work as hard anymore. I'll take care of everything. It sounded great in theory. Who wouldn't want to partner with big dreams and ambitions? But here's the thing. There was zero follow-through.
None.
Nothing. No business plan. No website. No social media presence. No business cards. No networking. No market research. Nothing that would indicate he was actually serious about making this dream a reality. I even offered to help him. David, let me help you set up an Instagram account to showcase your work. You did such a beautiful job on the bakery renovation. If you posted photos and got some traction online, you could start attracting clients. He just shrugged. Yeah, maybe. I'll get to it later. Social media isn't really my thing. It feels fake. Okay, but this is 2024. If you're starting any kind of business, especially one that relies on visual work like home improvement, you need an online presence. That's not optional anymore. That's just basic business sense. Meanwhile, guess who is paying for everything? The mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, the car insurance, Emma's school supplies, and extracurricular activities. All of it.
Me.
Just me. After about 8 months of unemployment, David picked up a new hobby. Woodworking. He said it was for stress relief, a way to keep his hands busy while he figured out his career path. That sounded fine until I realized what it actually meant. I was funding another one of his projects that would go nowhere. He started ordering expensive tools and supplies online. A table saw here, a set of chisels there, premium wood, specialized clamps, all kinds of stuff. These things started showing up at the house, and every time I saw another package, I felt my blood pressure rise. One day I came home from the bakery and found a $350 sauce sitting in the living room, still in its box with the receipt on top. David, what is this? I asked, holding up the receipt. He barely glanced up from his laptop. Oh, that's for my new project. I'm going to build a custom coffee table for the living room. Something really special that represents us as a family. I looked at our perfectly functional coffee table that we'd bought together 2 years earlier. David, we already have a coffee table. Yeah, but it's not personal, you know? I want something handmade, something with meaning. That coffee table never got built. The sauce sat in that box for weeks until I finally moved it to the garage just to get it out of sight. It sat out there collecting dust along with all the other equipment he'd bought and never used. But here's where things really started to frustrate me. Emma was picking up on her father's attitude and starting to act exactly the same way. She began treating me like her personal ATM, expecting me to buy her whatever she wanted without question. She didn't even bother asking David for money anymore because, let's be real, he didn't have any. So, everything fell on me. One evening, she came into the kitchen where I was making dinner and slid her laptop across the counter to show me something. "Sarah, I need this jacket for the senior class trip." I looked at the screen. The jacket cost $230. For a single trip. "Emma, that's really expensive," I said carefully. "Can we look around and find something similar for less? I'm sure there are other options that would work just as well." She rolled her eyes so dramatically, I thought they might get stuck. "It's required, Sarah. It's the official trip jacket. Everyone else is getting one. I can't be the only person without it." Before I could even respond, David chimed in from his spot on the couch. "Just get it for her, Sarah. It's not that big of a deal. She needs it for school." Not that big of a deal? We were talking about $230 for a jacket she'd wear maybe twice. But like a fool, I gave in. I pulled out my credit card, made the purchase, and told myself it wasn't worth the argument. I convinced myself this is what family does. You make sacrifices for the people you love. But it didn't stop there. It never does it? Emma needed money for a field trip? Ask Sarah. Emma wanted the latest iPhone?
Sarah would buy it.
Emma wanted expensive makeup? Sarah's credit card. New laptop for school?
Sarah.
Concert tickets?
Sarah.
Designer sneakers? Sarah. And here's what really got to me. She rarely even said thank you. It was just expected. Assumed. Like I was obligated to provide these things simply because I had the money. I overheard her talking on the phone with one of her friends one afternoon. I'd just gotten home and was putting groceries away when I heard her voice from upstairs. "Yeah, my stepmom's pretty loaded," she was saying with a laugh. "She doesn't even care how much stuff costs. I just ask and she buys it. It's actually kind of easy." I stood there at the bottom of the stairs, frozen, groceries still in my hands. Is that really what she thought? That I didn't care? That I was just some unlimited fund she could tap into whenever she wanted something? The thing that hurt most wasn't even the money itself. It was the complete lack of appreciation or understanding. Emma had no concept of how hard I worked for every dollar. She didn't see the early mornings at the bakery, the late nights doing bookkeeping, the stress of managing employees and dealing with suppliers and handling customer complaints. To her, money just appeared magically, and I was the magic money tree. David wasn't any better. He started making these little comments that would chip away at me bit by bit. If I complained about being tired or stressed from work, he'd say, "Well, at least you're making good money. That must feel nice." If I mentioned the bills or expressed concern about our finances, he'd wave it off. "You're doing fine, Sarah. We're not struggling. Why stress about it? Why stress about it?" Because I was supporting 3 people on one income while 2 of them sat around doing absolutely nothing to contribute. There was this one incident that really crystallized everything for me. It seems small, but it represented everything wrong with the dynamic in our house. Emma came home from school one day and walked into the kitchen where I was reviewing orders for the bakery. "Sarah, I need an $18 calculator for my advanced math class." "Okay," I said, looking up from my laptop. "Let me look into it and see where we can get a good deal." She cut me off before I could finish. "What is there to look into? It's $18. Just order it." The dismissive tone in her voice hit me wrong, but before I could respond, David spoke up from the living room where he was, as usual, on the couch scrolling through his phone. "Just get it for her, Sarah. It's for school. It's not like it's expensive." And that's when I snapped. Not outwardly, but something inside me broke. I wanted to say, "Excuse me, but I've already paid for everything else, and you're both going to sit there and tell me what to do with my money?" But I didn't say that. I bought the calculator and pretended everything was fine. Because that's what I always did. I kept the peace. I avoided conflict. I told myself this is what families do. They compromise and help each other. But deep down, I felt used. I felt taken advantage of. And I was starting to resent the very people I'd tried so hard to love. Around this time, I decided I needed to have a serious conversation with David. A real, honest, cards-on-the-table conversation about our situation. I waited until Emma was at a friend's house, and then I sat David down at the kitchen table.
"We need to talk," I said.
He looked wary immediately. "What's wrong?" "David, I'm happy to support you while you figure out your career situation.
"I really am."
But this can't go on indefinitely. It's been almost a year now, and you haven't made any progress toward finding work or starting your business. You need to start contributing financially. We're supposed to be partners." He stared at me like I'd just told him to swim to Europe. "I am contributing. I help around the house. I take care of Emma when she needs something." I tried to stay calm. David, helping around the house occasionally isn't the same as paying bills. And Emma is 17 years old. She doesn't need someone to take care of her during the day. She's at school most of the time anyway. He sighed heavily, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Sarah, I just need a little more time. You have the bakery bringing in good income. It's not like we're on the verge of losing the house or anything. Why are you putting so much pressure on me?" That's when I truly understood. David didn't see me as his partner. He saw me as his provider, his meal ticket, someone who would keep everything running smoothly while he floated through life doing whatever he felt like. I gave him one final chance. "Okay," I said slowly. "But you need to have a solid plan in place by the end of next month. I need to see actual progress. Job applications, business registration, something concrete. No more excuses." He nodded, but I could see in his eyes that he wasn't taking me seriously. He thought I'd back down like I always did. And predictably, the end of the month came and went. No plan. No job applications. No progress whatsoever. Just more of the same. David on the couch, me working myself to exhaustion, and Emma treating me like an ATM. I started to feel trapped, like I was carrying the entire weight of this household on my back, while two other people sat there taking everything I had to give without a second thought. I loved my bakery, but even I was starting to feel like a burden because I was working so hard to support people who didn't value or appreciate me. Looking back now, I should have put my foot down much sooner. I should have established clear boundaries right from the start. But I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that David would snap out of it, that Emma would mature and start acting more appreciative. I wanted so desperately for us to be a happy family that I ignored every single red flag waving right in front of my face. By the time Emma's 18th birthday rolled around, I was so desperate to maintain peace in our household that I'd completely lost sight of my own well-being. Emma had been dropping hints for months about how special her 18th birthday needed to be. "It's a milestone," she'd say. "It's the birthday that really matters. I want it to be something my friends will remember forever." One evening, she approached me with an idea. "Sarah, can we have my party at the bakery? It's such a beautiful space, and all my friends are always saying how classy and cool it looks. It would be perfect." I hesitated. Closing the bakery for a private party meant losing a day of revenue, plus all the costs of hosting an event. But before I could even process the request, David jumped in. "Come on, Sarah. This is her big day. Let's make it really special for her. She only turns 18 once." This man who hadn't contributed a single dollar to our household in over a year was pressuring me to throw an elaborate party. But like always, I caved. I convinced myself I was doing it for Emma, not for David. I thought maybe this would be the thing that finally made her appreciate me, that would help us bond on a deeper level. What a mistake that turned out to be. I went completely all out for this party. I closed the bakery for the entire evening, which cost me probably $800 in lost revenue. I hired a local band to play live music, which was another $600. I ordered these gorgeous custom cupcakes with edible gold decorations from a specialty bakery since I couldn't make them myself, and host the party at the same time. Those were $400. I let Emma choose all the decorations, which included this massive balloon arch that she'd seen on Instagram. That thing cost $480 just for the balloons, not including the rental of the frame. But I figured if it made her happy, it was worth it. In the days leading up to the party, Emma was more excited than I'd ever seen her. She kept talking about how much her friends were going to love it, how it was going to be the event of the year, how everyone at school was talking about it. I asked her several times for a final guest list, so I could make sure we had enough food and drinks. "Don't worry about it, Sarah," she kept saying. It's just a small group of close friends. Maybe 20 people max. I should have pushed harder for that list. I should have insisted. But I trusted her, and that was my mistake. The night of the party, I arrived at the bakery 2 hours early to make sure everything was absolutely perfect. The space looked incredible. The lights were dimmed just right. The balloon arch was stunning. The food table looked like something from a magazine. I was actually really proud of what I'd accomplished. Emma arrived about an hour before the party was supposed to start, looking absolutely beautiful in a designer dress I'd bought her specifically for this occasion. It had cost $350, but seeing her face light up when she tried it on had made it seem worthwhile. She looked happy and confident, and for a moment, I felt like maybe all the effort had been worth it. Her friends started arriving right on time. But it wasn't just her close friends like she'd said. Kids I'd never met before started flooding in. Strangers who apparently heard about the party through social media. The space filled up quickly, way beyond the capacity I'd planned for. The noise level got out of control fast. Music was blasting louder than I was comfortable with. Kids were running around taking selfies, posting on Instagram, being generally chaotic. But Emma looked happy, so I told myself to just let it go and not be the uptight adult who ruins everything. Then, about an hour into the party, Rachel walked in. Emma's biological mother. I recognized her immediately, even though I'd only seen pictures. She had this air of entitlement about her, like she owned the place and everyone in it should be grateful she'd shown up. She was wearing this loud, tacky dress that completely clashed with the elegant vibe I'd created, and her makeup was smeared like she'd applied it in a dark car. She walked straight up to Emma with her arms spread wide and practically shouted, "There's my baby girl. Happy birthday, sweetheart." Emma froze for just a second, and her eyes darted to me with what looked like guilt or nervousness. But then she hugged her mother like nothing was wrong.
Mom.
"You made it. I'm so glad you're here." I hadn't invited Rachel. I had no idea Emma had even contacted her, let alone invited her to this party that I'd paid for and organized. But there she was, acting like she had every right to be there. I walked over to David, who was standing in the corner nursing a soda and looking at his phone like he was at someone else's party. "David," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice under control. "Did you know Rachel was coming tonight?" He looked at me like I'd asked the stupidest question in the world. Of course I knew. Emma told me she wanted her mom here. I didn't think it would be a big deal. Not a big deal? The woman who'd lost custody of her daughter due to her own poor choices was now in my bakery, crashing a party I'd spent thousands of dollars on, and he didn't think it was worth mentioning to me? I was furious, but I didn't want to make a scene in front of all these kids. I tried to ignore Rachel and just focus on making sure the party ran smoothly. But Rachel made that absolutely impossible. She was everywhere, hugging Emma constantly, talking loudly to Emma's friends about how she used to throw big parties like this when Emma was younger, telling stories that painted herself as some kind of amazing mother who just had a few rough years. It was infuriating to watch. Then she crossed a line that I couldn't ignore. She walked up to the table where I was sitting with David and Emma, pointed at my chair, and said loudly, "This is my spot. You need to move." I looked up at her, trying to process what she'd just said. "Excuse me? This is my daughter's birthday party," she said with this nasty attitude. "I'm her mother. I should be sitting next to her, not you. So move." I looked at David, fully expecting him to step in and handle this situation. But as usual, he just stared down at his drink like it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. And Emma, sitting right there next to us, said absolutely nothing. She just looked down at her phone, pretending this wasn't happening. "I'm not moving," I said firmly. "There are plenty of empty chairs. Feel free to take one of those." Rachel's face turned bright red. "Oh, look at you. The big bad stepmom who thinks she can replace me. Let me tell you something, honey. Money can't buy love. You're nothing to her. Nothing." Before I could even respond to that, she reached down and grabbed a plate of appetizers from the table and smashed it on the floor. Glass shattered everywhere. The music cut off. Every single person at the party stopped what they were doing and stared at us. The silence was deafening. "Get out," I said, and my voice was shaking with rage I could barely control. "You're not welcome here. Leave now." Rachel laughed like I'd told the funniest joke she'd ever heard. "You think you can kick me out? This is my daughter's party. You can't do anything to me. You're nothing." I motioned to the security staff I'd hired for the event. Yes, I'd hired security because I'm not naive enough to think a party full of teenagers doesn't need supervision. 2 guys came over immediately and escorted Rachel toward the door while she yelled and screamed and made the biggest scene imaginable in front of everyone. "You'll regret this," she was screaming as they walked her out. "Emma, tell her she can't do this." But Emma said nothing. She just sat there looking mortified, her face bright red. After Rachel was gone, the party never recovered. The atmosphere was completely ruined. Emma tried to act like everything was fine, but her friends were clearly uncomfortable. I could hear people whispering, "Did you see her mom? That was so crazy. I can't believe that just happened." People started making excuses and leaving early. By 9 o'clock, the party was basically over even though it was supposed to go until 11. When we got home that night, I tried to talk to Emma about what had happened. "Emma, I'm really sorry about tonight. I know that wasn't how you wanted your birthday to go." She spun around and glared at me. "This wouldn't have happened if you'd just let her sit with us. You made everything worse. You embarrassed me in front of all my friends." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything I'd done, after spending thousands of dollars to give her the perfect party, after dealing with her mother's behavior, she was blaming me? I looked at David, desperate for him to say something, anything, to defend me, or at least acknowledge how unfair Emma was being. But he just said, "Let's all just go to bed. We can talk about this tomorrow when everyone's calmer." We never talked about it tomorrow, or the next day, or ever really. It just became this thing that sat between us, poisoning everything. After the birthday party disaster, you'd think David would have stepped up and tried to show some appreciation or support.
But no.
Instead, he doubled down on his entitlement. By this point, I was beyond angry. I was just exhausted, mentally drained, emotionally depleted, financially stressed despite running a successful business. A few months passed, and Emma's high school graduation was approaching. She'd been accepted to NYU, which honestly was a great accomplishment. I was genuinely proud of her for that. Part of me hoped that maybe getting into a good college would be a turning point, that she'd start taking more responsibility for her life and start appreciating the people who'd supported her. One evening, Emma came downstairs and flopped onto the couch next to where I was sitting. "So, Sarah, we need to talk about college tuition." I looked up from my laptop. "Okay. Have you gotten your financial aid package yet? How much do they want you to pay?" She waved her hand dismissively. "I got some aid, but there's still like $20,000 a year that needs to be covered. So, I figured you'd help with that." The casual way she said it, like it was a given, like there was no question that I'd just hand over $20,000 a year, made my blood boil. "Emma," I said carefully, "NYU is a very expensive school. $20,000 a year is a lot of money. Have you looked into additional scholarships, work-study programs, student loans?" She rolled her eyes. "I'm not taking out loans. That's stupid. And I can't work during school. How would I have time to focus on my classes?" Before I could respond, David chimed in from across the room. "She's got a point, Sarah. You don't want her grades to suffer because she's working too much. And you can afford it. It's not like you're struggling." I stared at him in disbelief. This man who hadn't earned $1 in over a year was telling me what I could afford and what I should do with my money. "David," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "college tuition isn't something you just assume someone else will pay. This is a conversation that should have been happening months ago, with all 3 of us making a plan together." Emma crossed her arms. "So, you're saying you won't help me? After everything? You're just going to let me miss out on my dream school?" "That's not what I said," I replied. "I'm saying we need to have a realistic conversation about finances and expectations. Plenty of students work part-time while going to college. It's actually a good way to learn time management and responsibility." "Oh my God," Emma said dramatically. You're such a hypocrite. You always talk about wanting me to succeed, but when it actually comes down to it, you won't help me. I looked at David again, hoping he'd finally step in and say something reasonable. Instead, he just shrugged. I mean, Sarah, she's only 18. She's just a kid. You really want her to struggle with work and school? A kid? I shot back. She's 18 years old, David. That's legally an adult. And yes, working while going to school is normal. Millions of students do it every single year. The argument escalated from there. Emma stormed off to her room. David sat there sulking. And I sat there realizing that nothing was ever going to change. They would always see me as nothing more than a source of money. Then came graduation day itself. By this point, I'd already spent close to $3,000 on graduation-related expenses. A new dress for Emma, new shoes, professional hair and makeup, a designer handbag she insisted she needed, flowers, and preparations for yet another party she demanded. Yes, another party. Because apparently, the birthday disaster wasn't enough. Emma wanted a graduation party at the house with 50 or 60 people. She wanted it catered. She wanted a DJ. She wanted a photo booth. She wanted everything. I'd spent the entire day before graduation setting up the backyard, renting tables and chairs, hanging lights and decorations, arranging the food, making sure everything looked perfect. By the time I was done, I was completely exhausted. The graduation ceremony itself was fine. Emma walked across the stage, accepted her diploma, smiled for the cameras. I took photos with the bouquet of flowers I'd bought that morning after she'd reminded me not to forget them. Not asked me to bring them, mind you. Reminded me, like I was her personal assistant. Oh, thanks I guess, was all she said when I handed her the flowers. Not thank you for coming, or thank you for supporting me through high school, or thank you for everything you've done for me. Just thanks I guess. The real catastrophe happened at the graduation party that evening. About an hour into the party, Emma pulled me aside. Hey, so, Mom's going to stop by. I felt my stomach drop. What do you mean Rachel's going to stop by? She wants to congratulate me on graduating, Emma said like it was the most normal thing in the world. I told her she could come by for a bit. Emma, I said, trying very hard to stay calm, after what happened at your birthday party, I really don't think that's a good idea. Rachel shouldn't be coming here. Her expression turned cold. That was your fault, Sarah. If you hadn't been so rude to her and made such a big deal about everything, none of that would have happened. She's my mom, and she has a right to celebrate with me. I went to find David. Did you know Rachel is planning to come here tonight? He barely looked at me. Emma mentioned it. Look, let's not make this into a huge thing. It's her graduation day. Just let her have this. Let her have this? I said incredulously. I've paid for everything, David. Everything. The ceremony expenses, this entire party, all of it. And now I'm supposed to welcome your ex-wife, who caused a massive scene at the last party, into my home? He shrugged. It's one day, Sarah. Just be the bigger person. That's when I'd finally had enough. No, I said firmly. Rachel is not coming to this party. End of discussion. Emma must have overheard because she came storming over. And then, in front of 50 people in my own backyard, at a party I'd paid thousands of dollars for, she screamed at the top of her lungs. You're not my real Emma. You're nobody. Who do you think you are telling me what to do? The entire party went silent. The DJ stopped the music. Everyone turned to stare at us. I could feel dozens of eyes on me, waiting to see what I would do. My voice was shaking when I spoke. I'm the person who has paid for everything you've had for the past 8 years. I'm the person who's been supporting you while your father does nothing. I'm the person who has bent over backward trying to give you a good life. And if you can't show me even basic respect in my own home, then you need to leave. Emma's face turned red with rage. Fine. I don't want to be here anyway. This party sucks. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the house. Several of her friends awkwardly followed her. The rest of the guests started making uncomfortable excuses about needing to leave early. Within 30 minutes, my backyard was empty except for the mess. David finally came outside, But instead of apologizing or acknowledging what had just happened, he had the audacity to blame me. "You didn't have to escalate it like that," he said. "You could have just let her have this one day. Now you've ruined her graduation." I looked at him standing there, and something inside me just broke. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of my house. Tonight. Pack your things and get out." He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language.
You don't mean that.
"You're just upset." "I absolutely mean it," I said, and my voice was completely calm now. "I'm done, David. I'm done being used. I'm done being disrespected. I'm done supporting two people who see me as nothing more than a wallet. Pack your things and leave." That night, David packed a bag and left. Emma had already left with her friends and didn't come back. The house was finally quiet for the first time in what felt like years. I spent the next few days in a weird fog. Part of me kept waiting to feel guilty or sad, but mostly I just felt relieved. The constant tension was gone. The feeling of being used and unappreciated was gone. I could finally breathe in my own home. David tried calling several times over the next week. I didn't answer. Emma sent a few texts that were clearly designed to make me feel guilty. "I hope you're happy now. You've ruined everything." I didn't respond to those either. About 2 weeks after the graduation disaster, David showed up at the bakery during the lunch rush. He walked right up to the counter while I was helping customers. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said. I finished with the customer I was helping, then motioned for him to step to the side. "What do you want, David?" "I want to talk about us."
About fixing this.
"You can't just throw away 8 years of marriage over one argument." I actually laughed. "One argument? David, this has been building for years. You haven't worked in over a year. You've contributed nothing financially. Emma treats me like garbage, and you've never once stood up for me or set any boundaries with her. This isn't about one argument. This is about years of being taken for granted." He had the audacity to look hurt. "I thought you loved us. I thought we were a family." "I did love you," I said. "I loved both of you. But love can't be one-sided. I can't keep giving and giving and giving while getting nothing in return except disrespect and demands for more money." "So this is about money," he said accusingly. "It always comes back to money with you." "No, David. This is about respect. This is about partnership. This is about being valued as a person, not as a bank account. And since you clearly can't understand that, I'm filing for divorce." His face went pale. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. You'll be getting papers from my lawyer within the week." He tried to argue, tried to tell me I was making a huge mistake, that I'd regret this, that I was being cruel and heartless. But I'd heard it all before, and I was done listening. True to my word, I filed for divorce. David tried to fight it, claiming he deserved part of the bakery because he'd done work on it years ago. My lawyer shut that down quickly. The bakery was established and owned entirely by me before I even met David. The renovations he'd done had been paid for in full. He had no legal claim to any of it. He also tried to claim he deserved alimony because he'd become financially dependent on me during the marriage. My lawyer presented evidence of his refusal to work, his rejection of multiple job opportunities, and his complete lack of effort to contribute to the household. The judge wasn't sympathetic. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. David and Emma moved into a small apartment across town. I heard through mutual acquaintances that David was trying to restart his contracting business, but it wasn't going well. Word had gotten around about his work ethic, or lack thereof, and nobody wanted to hire him. Emma had deferred her acceptance to NYU because she couldn't afford the tuition. She was working at a clothing store in the mall, complaining to anyone who would listen about how unfair her life was and how I'd ruined her future. About 6 months after the divorce was final, I got a text from Emma. It was long and rambling, but the gist of it was, "I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean to hurt you. I've had time to think about things and I realize I was wrong.
Can we talk?
I miss you." I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me wanted to believe she'd genuinely had some kind of revelation, that she'd matured and recognized how poorly she'd treated me. But I knew better. I'd heard from a friend who still had connections to Emma's social circle that she'd been asking around about me, trying to find out how the bakery was doing, whether I was seeing anyone new. The text wasn't about apologizing or making amends. It was about testing the waters to see if she could get back into my good graces and, presumably, back into my wallet. I didn't respond. I didn't block her number, but I didn't respond. I just let it sit there unanswered. A few weeks after that, David called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hey, Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with false friendliness. "How are you doing? I've been thinking about you." I didn't buy it for a second. "What do you want, David?" There was a long pause. "I was wondering if you'd be willing to help Emma out. She's really struggling right now, working long hours for minimum wage, living in our tiny apartment. I know you care about her deep down. Maybe you could help with her tuition? She could start at NYU in the spring semester, if she had the funding." I felt my blood pressure spike. Even after everything, even after the divorce, he was still trying to use me as a source of money. "David," I said very calmly, "let me be absolutely clear about something. Emma is not my responsibility. She never was, legally speaking, and after everything that happened, she certainly isn't now. If she's struggling, that's between you and her mother. I'm done. Don't call me about this again." He tried to argue, tried to guilt-trip me, tried to tell me I was being vindictive and punishing Emma for his mistakes. But I'd heard every manipulation tactic he had, and none of them worked anymore. "Goodbye, David," I said, and I hung up. He tried calling back twice. I didn't answer. He sent a few text messages over the next week. I didn't respond. Eventually, he stopped trying. It's been almost a year now since the divorce was finalized, and I'm in such a different place mentally and emotionally. The bakery is thriving. Without the financial drain of supporting David and Emma, I've actually been able to save money and invest back into the business. I just opened a second location last month, and it's already doing better than I expected. I've hired more staff, developed new products, and I'm actually enjoying my work again instead of resenting it. My house feels like mine again. I redecorated Emma's old room and turned it into a home office. I got rid of all of David's woodworking equipment that was cluttering up the garage. I painted the living room a color I love instead of the neutral beige David insisted on. Little things, but they matter. I've started dating again, casually, nothing serious yet. But it's been nice to meet people who are self-sufficient, who have their own careers and interests, who don't see me as a solution to their financial problems. I've also done a lot of therapy, which has helped me understand why I let things get as bad as they did. I grew up in a household where love was conditional, where I had to earn affection through being useful and helpful. That pattern followed me into adulthood. I equated providing for people with being loved by them. I thought if I could just give enough, do enough, be enough, they would value me. But that's not how it works. Real love, real family, isn't about transactions. It's not about what you can provide materially. It's about mutual respect, appreciation, and genuine care for each other's well-being. David and Emma didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them. And once I stopped providing unlimited financial support, they had no use for me. That hurts to acknowledge, but it's the truth. I've thought a lot about whether I made mistakes in how I handled things. Should I have set firmer boundaries from the beginning? Absolutely. Should I have insisted David get a job much sooner?
Yes.
Should I have had more honest conversations with Emma about expectations and respect? Definitely. But I also know that even if I'd done all those things perfectly, it might not have made a difference. Some people are takers. They'll take whatever you're willing to give and then demand more. David and Emma were takers, and nothing I did was ever going to be enough for them. The hardest part hasn't been the divorce itself or even the money I spent. It's been letting go of the dream I had. I really wanted us to be a family. I wanted to give Emma the stable, loving home I never had. I wanted to be the stepmom who made a difference in a child's life. I wanted David and me to be real partners who built a life together. But you can't force people to appreciate you. You can't make someone respect you through generosity alone. And you can't build a real relationship with people who only see you as a resource to be used. I do wonder sometimes how Emma is doing. Whether she's figured out how to pay for college. Whether she's learned anything from this experience. Whether she'll ever understand how much I actually cared about her and how badly she took that for granted. But mostly, I don't think about them anymore. I'm focused on my own life, my own happiness, my own future. So that's my story. That's what happened when I tried to make my stepdaughter's graduation perfect with $20,000 and got told I wasn't her real mom. Was I perfect?
No.
Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. Could I have handled some things differently? For sure. But I also know that I gave everything I had to people who didn't value it. I worked my ass off to provide a comfortable life for them, and they responded with entitlement and disrespect. And when I finally stood up for myself and said enough is enough, they acted like I was the villain. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you're in a relationship where you feel used and unappreciated, please listen to me. You deserve better. You deserve to be with people who value you for who you are, not what you can provide. You deserve respect and appreciation and genuine care. Don't make the same mistake I did by waiting years to set boundaries. Don't convince yourself that if you just give a little more, do a little more, sacrifice a little more, they'll finally appreciate you. They won't. Takers don't suddenly become givers just because you've given enough. And if you're a parent or step-parent watching this, please teach your children about appreciation and gratitude. Teach them that nothing in life is free, that people who provide for you are making sacrifices, and that respect is the bare minimum you owe to people who care for you. Emma had every opportunity to have a wonderful stepmother who loved her and supported her. She had every advantage, every comfort, every opportunity. And she threw it all away because she couldn't show basic respect and appreciation. That's on her, not on me. I spent $20,000 trying to make her graduation perfect, on top of the hundreds of thousands I'd spent over the years supporting her and her father. And what did I get in return? You're not my real mom. You know what? She was right. I'm not her real mom. Her real mom lost custody because of her own poor choices. And her dad was too lazy and entitled to properly provide for her. But I was the one who stepped up. I was the one who paid for everything. I was the one who tried to give her a good life. And that should have counted for something. The fact that it didn't count for anything in her eyes tells you everything you need to know about her character and the values her father taught her. I don't regret the divorce. I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret saying no when they came back asking for more money. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. My life is better now. Genuinely, significantly better. I'm happier, less stressed, more financially secure, and surrounded by people who actually value me. I sleep better at night knowing I'm not being used anymore. So to David and Emma, wherever you are, I hope you've learned something from all this. I hope you figured out that you can't just take and take and take from people without giving anything in return. I hope you've realized that respect and appreciation aren't optional in relationships. And I hope Emma has learned that, real mom or not, the person who shows up and does the work and makes the sacrifices is the person who deserves gratitude. To everyone watching, thank you for listening to my story. I know it was long, and I know it's heavy, but I needed to share it. I needed to get it out there. And if it helps even one person recognize a similar pattern in their own life and make a change before it goes as far as mine did, then sharing all of this publicly was worth it. Take care of yourselves. Set boundaries. Demand respect. And never, ever let anyone make you feel guilty for refusing to be used. Thanks for watching.